Hello everybody, hope you're doing well. Today I'm going to be covering part J of my CD collection. Now, one of the things that you're probably wondering immediately off the bat is, why are you in this very swanky suit? Well, I've decided that since I am a grown-up, at least that's what my mammy says, I am going to now become far more professional in my videos. I mean, of course, in my previous collection videos, you can see that I'm already very professional. Fucking hell, what a stupid shithead. What an idiot. Christ, what am I doing with my life? Nah, who am I kidding? I'm not professional, am I? And speaking of unprofessional, I want to apologise for there being quite a bit of a delay since my last video. I'm making a few different life changes, I'll just say that, which just kept us busy. So that's the only thing I can say about that, but expect a review coming shortly. Obviously this is the video, and once I clear up a few things and I get more time on my hands, be sure to think that I will be spending that time making some more videos for you guys. So anyways, let's get to part J. So part J is going to contain some interesting albums, ones that maybe would be seen as undervalued in my opinion, quite a few of them. Some big names coming up here as well though, one of which, if any of you are a fan of instrumental hip-hop, you will no doubt think of Dilla's Doughnuts. So this was quite a late purchase in my journey into classic hip-hop records. I mean, I'm saying late, I mean I got this still a couple of years ago, but really I should have been picking this up much further back, because of how seminal this is. Sad story behind this, he was basically recording this on his deathbed. Pretty crazy, and the instrumentals are amazing and were later featured on other people's records, namely Ghostface Killer. And yeah, the whole thing flows really well. Obviously, since it's instrumental hip hop, you'd expect it obviously to not have any rappers on it, which it doesn't. And you can imagine some of the instrumentals would really be looped to fit a verse in. So a lot of the tracks are really short, but there's a lot of tracks on it, so it makes up for it, and the fact that it flows really well makes it feel like a cohesive album. And there's just a lot of really beautiful instrumentals here, and J Dilla was just fantastic in being able to get a lot of brilliant ideas and putting them together, namely getting samples and making them work really well. One of my favourites, now, well, I suppose it's because of me being such a big ZAPPA fan. There's a track on here that features Frank Zappa, and it's from a track called, what's it called again? It's off Tinseltown Rebellion, and it's like a dodgy live track where he's getting everyone to dance, and he actually makes it work really well, and it's got this beautiful piano bit. And if any of you are a fan of Adult Swim as well, you might recognise a few of these instrumentals too. A lot of them are really laid back, some of them are pretty quirky, but overall I think it's really good. And I don't want to say it's background music because that feels like I'm putting it down in a way, but please everybody, even if you're not big into hip-hop, give it a try. I think you will enjoy at least some aspects of it. So J Dilla's Doughnuts, great album. And of course, what CD collection would exist without a bit Michael Jackson? So yeah, I am a pretty big fan of Jackson, mostly his earlier stuff. And I don't mean earlier stuff as in when he was in the Jackson 5 or when he was releasing stuff when he was really young. I mean stuff that he was doing, well, these two albums basically that are one of my favourites, I'll just say that. So of course we've got Thriller, which is a classic. I mean, Jesus, PYT's on here. In fact, I could just say every track and you'll be like, oh yeah, that's a classic track by Jackson. So apart from Baby Be Mine, but whatever. But my favourite's always been Off the Wall, because it has Don't Stop Till You Get Enough, Rock With You, the title track, She's Out of My Life, I Can't Help It. In fact, I'd say again, all of these tracks are classics to my ears, and I just prefer this one. I used to own Bad, and I don't know where that's gone, but yeah, these are the two albums I always go to if I'm listening to Michael Jackson. Not saying that he didn't release a lot of great singles later on or earlier on after those two, but in terms of albums, those are the two that I like to go to. So speaking of undervalued albums, I want to give you guys some attention to this. So this is called Classical Curves, and this is by Jam City. And he's basically a very renowned producer, and he's worked with a lot of different artists producing, but this is obviously an album that he's done, and I think this is just really, really good. And I remember buying this and thinking I've never heard anything like it before, and I'll be honest, I haven't looked into it yet, but there's a new sort of genre that's been created called Deconstructed Club, and I'm wondering if that's been tagged as this, or if this has basically been seen as a predecessor to stuff that maybe was done later with Sophie and PC Music and such like that. So immediately if those names come to you mind, and you're like, oh yeah, I like that, then this is automatically a must listen. And it's electronic music, it's kind of dance music, I suppose. It's very urban and clean sounding, I suppose, a bit like the album cover. But I remember listening to the tracks Her and The Courts. The track Her is amazing, just so frantic and just so futuristic and crazy. And when it goes into the courts being like a tennis court, and it sounds like people making a dance song while playing tennis, that's just a must listen. And yeah, I remember hearing that and just thinking, oh my god, I've never heard anything so good like this. And the Hyde Park Nights Part 1 and 2, really dark and gritty sound and just really cool. Some of it's got a kind of cyberpunk sound to it. And of course I've got to shout out the bonus track, The Nightlife, which, although not my favourite track, it does feature Main Attractions, who of course are very big on my channel and played a large part in being mentioned quite a bit. So yeah, this is really, really worth a listen. Also an underappreciated album is an album from the 1970s, and these guys are called Jade Warrior, and this album's called Released. So these guys are kind of progressive rock, psychedelic rock, and got a lot of folk elements to the music too. I haven't really delved into a lot of the other albums, but they're one of those groups who seem to have made at least 6 or 7 albums which are worth listening to. But this one I just picked up just completely randomly, just a market I used to go to that's no longer open, sadly, because of the whole COVID palaver. There used to be a stall there that used to sell CDs like this, just a lot of mostly forgotten 1970s artists, progressive rock mainly, and there's another one that's going to come up a bit later. So I just picked this up. The guy who's at the market said it's worth a listen, and I totally agree. Three-Horn Dragon King is so good. Minamoto's Dream, Yellow Eyes is lovely, but the real one I want to give you guys some attention to is the song Bride of Summer, and that just blew my mind when I heard that track. So listen to Bride of Summer, and if you enjoy that, then please give this album a listen. And I've got just a few albums by Jay-Z. I've lent a few out and never got some of them back, like the Black Album. And I used to own American Gangster, gave that out to somebody, don't know where that's gone. So I've got 3 albums here, never mind. Reasonable Doubt. This is a seminal 90s hip-hop album, essential listening. Probably still my favourite album by him. It was the first one that I got by him, to be fair, so maybe rose-tinted glasses and all that, but some of these are just, I still think, are absolutely brilliant. I love the production on the whole thing as well. It's got this sort of smoky, obviously gangster sort of atmosphere to it. First track, Can't Knock the Hustle, Love Politics as usual. Brooklyn's Finest with Biggie is classic. Dead Presidents too. I mean, I'm only going through every track so far here, but all of them are fantastic in my opinion. I think this is brilliant. So yeah, Jay-Z's first album, brilliant. Also really good is The Blueprint. So this was basically the thing that kickstarted people's attention to Kanye. So essential for that, a lot of production by him too. So 5th track Jingles, great. The Ruler's Back's fantastic as well. Girls, Girls, Girls. Oh, I Do Adore, of course, brilliant. And again, I could pretty much say that most tracks on here are brilliant. So again, worth a listen, definitely. And a great album as well, which I was quite surprised at how good it was 444. And I think it's obviously it's got a very mature sound to it, but again, I think just the production's just really well done as well. And I can't really fault the whole album. It's quite short, but I think it's pretty much a all killer no filler one in my opinion. I mean, the title track's brilliant. The track that's like that was animated in like a sort of 1930s sort of way. I can't remember the names of the tracks, I'll be honest. Doesn't help that it doesn't have it on here. But there's a song, I just remember certain lyrics just jumping out to us, and just shows that Jay-Z was such a good lyricist. I love this track where he's kind of talking about how his mother came out as bisexual. It's just the way that story's told is really nice. And there's like a few tracks where he sings on it as well, which I think was really cool too. I'll be right back. I don't want to sound like I don't know what I'm talking about, so I'm gonna look up these tracks which I think are worth a listen. Sorry about that. Forgive us, it's been a while since I've listened to that album. So the tracks where he sings on it a bit is like Moonlight, which I don't think is a lot of people's go-to song, but I always really enjoyed that. The track I was referring to about the animated video is The Story of OJ, which is a great track. Family Feud with Beyonce is brilliant. Like I say, the title track's really good. The song Bam I really like too, classic sample. There's a song with Frank Ocean on it, which is really good. So again, really recommend it as well. So yeah. So I've also got 2 albums by, I think is it Hesu or Jesu? I've never really understood what they're called, but sort of post-rock, but a lot of it's very dreary and depressing, a bit like the album covers. And funnily enough, Conqueror, this one, which I think is the second album, is the one I've been listening to more than the debut, which is self-titled. And it's very atmospheric, like I say. A few of the tracks, I believe, are maybe sometimes go on a bit long, which I think sometimes is an issue with post-rock tracks, don't have the right atmosphere to them. But I think this is really solid still. And this one as well, a lot of people feel is a classic, so I will want to give this a few more listens until I can have a bit more of a valid opinion on it. But yeah, just to give you guys a bit of attention to Hesu too. So usually in my CD collections there's always this one artist or band or whoever that I have a pretty big collection of, and in this installment of ABBA to ZAPPA, the J is Jethro Tull. I had just a huge stint where I was really into progressive rock and I was getting into a lot of artists, and I just wanted to try and get as many Jethro Tull albums as I could. And I feel that the ones that I own here are all classic ones by him. There's a few that I always wanted to try eventually, like the debut and Stormwatch, but just never got around to it. There's a Christmas album he's done as well, which I might pick up one day, because I feel like, well, because of Ring Out Solstice Bells, I think, oh, an album of that quality, that would be cool, but I don't know if it is, but, you know, Christmas time, I might pick it up, you never know. But anyways, so these might not be in the right order, apologies to that, but never mind. So Stand Up. A few of these, I want to quickly say, by the way, I used to work at the PDSA charity, and I worked there for probably every Saturday for like 3 years. And of course, you know, don't get us wrong, it's good to be helping all those cats and doggies and all of those animals. And if we see you doing a nice community-driven thing, you feel good about it. But I think that what was definitely a benefit for me was that I usually obviously got first dibs on CDs and whatever was being brought into the shop, and I used to pick them up immediately and A lot of them were Blu-rays, which got me into Blu-ray collecting, some old DVDs, which were quite rare. Like I got a load of Charlie Chaplin films as well. But one of them was Jethro Tull, so there's like 3 or 4 albums here that I got from the PDSA, so yeah. So Stand Up is the first one I'm going to be talking about. So this one is a bit more hard rock and blues rock more than progressive rock, but this has a lot of Jethro Tull classics. So this has like Fat Man, Bourie, Jeffrey Goes to Leicester Square, Nothing Is Easy, Looking to the Sun. So this is really good. Then we've got Benefit, which has songs like Sun, Playing Time, To Cry You a Song, Inside. So Nothing to Say, which is another really solid album. Of course, we've got Aqualung too, which is the first one I picked up by him. So title track's a classic, Cross-Eyed Mary, Mother Goose is brilliant, My God is pretty amazing. And yeah, that was a Commotive Breath. I was trying to think which album had that one, so that's a great track too. Some days I feel this is my favourite by him, Thick as a Brick. The whole thing is just amazing. And this was one of them that I got. I don't know if this is any rare or not, but this has like the full newspaper thing, so pretty cool. I'll not open it too much because it was a pain in the arse, I'll be honest, trying to get it back into how it's correctly folded. But yeah, Thick as a Brick is fantastic. Passion Play, this is again a bit like Thick as a Brick, just one big track, and there's a few dodgy songs on here. It's got a bit of a Alice in Wonderland sort of sound to it, especially with the song the story of the hare who lost his spectacles, showing his humour. Some people will just listen to this and think, what the hell is this tripe, but I enjoy it. Minstrel in the Gallery, this is a one that I haven't listened to that much, but Black Satin Dancer and Requiem are 2 track and the title track of songs that I know are classics, so I'll probably have to give this one a bit more of a listen. But what really wanted us to get into Jethro Tull was his trilogy that he made, and I don't know if it's got a name, this trilogy, but basically it's very wooden, sort of nature themed, and I just love that idea. And it kind of features from him walking further into the woods and then kind of going out of it again. So I can't remember what the first part is, I might not have that, unless Songs of the Wood is the first part. But this is the album that really got us into Jethro Tull. So the title track I absolutely love, Jack in the Green I love. In fact, I love all of these songs. I said Rung Out Solstice Bells, Velvet Green, Fire at Midnight, Hunting Girl's amazing as well. So I think this will probably rival Thick as a Brick as my favourite one by him. And what's also a part of that trilogy is Heavy Horses as well. So Acres Wild is amazing. Journeyman and One Brown Mouse is one of my favourite Jethro Tull tracks as well. So Jethro Tull. So continuing, we've got Jim O'Rourke here with Insignificance. Jim O'Rourke is an artist who's collaborated quite a lot with Sonic Youth, and he has got a very versatile discography, starting a lot with experimental dark ambient and then moving on to very interesting, I think it's known as like American primitivism, I can't even say it, folk music basically, very unique folk music, and he ended up making more singer-songwriter based albums, one of them called Eureka, which has one of the best album covers of all time that I'm very, very proud to own on vinyl. I sometimes like to frame that. Oh yes, scare people off. And this one, also a very interesting album cover, and music-wise, it's actually quite a soothing experience. It's more singer-songwriter, indie rock, a bit folk music, a bit indie pop as well. It's actually quite orchestrated in a very nice manner, totally different to his earlier catalogue, but there's some really, really nice tracks here. I just noticed as well, I don't know if that's meant to be a joke, how when you flip it over, it looks like the CD as well. just in case you can't get enough of the... Oh god, okay, I'm not showing you that. Okay, I'm just going to close that. That's weird. Anyways, so there's some really pretty tracks on here, but I think I have to say the ending of the last track has to be one of the most intense pieces of music I've ever heard. Sounds a bit of a contrast to what I was saying before, but whatever. Yeah, so recommend this. What I've got here. So this is the Jim Yoshi Pile Up, yeah. So pretty underrated, again, sort of slowcore emo music. Particularly say that the vocals on here are quite breathtaking. I love the vocals on here. Very depressing, but just what you need for an emo record though, so very underrated, but I really recommend this album. Right, just a complete legend. We've got Robert Johnson here, who sadly, well, just because of its time, I suppose, but also just being a very unknown man in general. Read up about this guy from what you can read up about him. I think there's only 2 photos that ever even existed about him, so it's good that this photo exists, because that's a nice photo, so it works for a CD album cover. Yep, ahead of his time even for album covers, that man. And all of his discography is literally held in here, which is 2 discs, majority of them having alternate takes, and it's such a... you have to own this basically if you're a fan of music, because any popular rock artist or any artist in general have to thank Robert Johnson for his guitar playing and the way that he made tunes basically. Very catchy, but was just crazily talented on the guitar as well, and made legendary tracks like Rambling on My Mind, Kind Hearted Woman Blues, Me and the Devil Blues, Milk Cow's Calf Blues. Yeah, can you tell what sort of music he makes? Drunken Hearted Man, Love in Vain, and one of my favourites by him, which I've always loved, is Come On In My Kitchen. I always thought that was a really catchy tune. So absolutely significant piece of music there. So Grace Jones, cheating a bit here, it's just a best of, but one day I need to get like an actual couple of albums by her, because I know she's made some really solid albums. In fact, I've got Nightclubbing on vinyl actually, so whatever. But yeah, so this just collects a lot of her singles. Spans from, I think, from the first album to the mid to late 80s, and just some absolute bangers on here, like Private Life, Love Is the Drug, I've seen that face before, Pull Up to the Bumper, one of my favourites by her, Walking in the Rain as well, Slave to the Rhythm. This is absolutely essential, and she's a complete legend still going on. Yep, love Grace Jones, and she was featured on Charger, the Gorillaz track, which was easily my favourite song off Humans. Yep, Grace Jones. Now, here's an album that has made me think when listening to it recently, you know what, I really need to get more albums by these guys. Judas Priest with Painkiller. I don't know why I've done myself a disservice not listening to more of these guys' stuff, but sadly this is the only album I've still only listened to by them. So yeah, if you guys want to recommend us any Judas Priest albums, please feel free to. But I love this album. The title track Painkiller is just legendary. Leather Rebel as well, Metal Meltdown too, Nightcrawler, oh yeah. So, oh, and the Touch of Evil's on here too. So yeah, this is a classic metal record. Right, harking back to what I was saying before with Jade Warrior, this is the other album that I got in the sort of mystery 70s progressive music that aren't really too known, or at least aren't put up there with the likes of King Crimson and Yes and Rush and people like that. This is Jumbo. These guys are Italian, the language and everything is in Italian too, and this thing is absolutely mental. It's a complete nuts album. As soon as you put it on, you'll think, what is going on here? But it's so diverse and melodic, and just got a huge range of different instrumentation going on, and it's just always an interesting listen. And I don't know how rare this CD is, but I can tell it's a Japanese import because it's got one of those things which you always catch with them, as well as a bit more Japanese stuff here. Yeah, so whether or not you can, I'm sure you can get this on stream and whatever, but just look up the band Jumbo, and I mean, my Italian's not exactly amazing or anything, but you'll find that album cover, so really recommend that too. And last but certainly not least is the Jungle, the Brothers, Jungle Brothers. And I love anything in the native tongues movement. What's that? Well, basically in sort of fight back to gangster rap that was going on in the late 80s. There was a collective that was formed together to basically make hippy dippy music, if you can make that, with hip hop. And people who were featured with there were the likes of Dilla Soul, Tribe Called Quest, but also the Jungle Brothers. And these guys are probably the least known, or at least probably the least talked about out of the collective, but I still think this is a 90s hip hop classic, so recommend the Jungle Brothers. And that's it for this installment of ABBA to ZAPPA. Thanks very much for watching, everybody. And yeah, I'm gonna go now. See you in part K. K? Yeah, I know, I should have had a longer hiatus. In fact, I shouldn't have came back at all. I know.
Thanks for listening.